I give the floor now to the representative of Greece.
Thank you, Madam President. I thank the High Representative of the European Union on Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Ms. Kaja Kallas, for her statement and warmly welcome her in our meeting. Madam President, as we approach the 80th anniversary of the United Nations, we all must recognize the importance of multilateralism, since no country can tackle today's crisis alone. In today's uncertain and increasingly contested and dangerous world, we need anchors of peace and stability. We therefore need to reaffirm the role of the United Nations and the UN Charter as pillars of peace, security and development. The European Union's contribution is pivotal in this regard. Its commitment to multilateralism is both political and financial in nature, as it ranges from defending the UN Charter, implementing the Pact for the Future, and promoting sustainable development, being one of the UN's biggest donors across the board. As a strong partner, the EU supports and delivers UN Security Council mandates in crisis management, peacekeeping, peace-building, humanitarian aid and reconstruction across the world, from Haiti to Afghanistan. This is also evident in the Western Balkans, where UN-EU coordination, including through EU for Althea, helps to sustain peace and promote post-conflict recovery. Strong UN-EU cooperation is also vital in collective efforts to uphold freedom of navigation and maritime security. Current naval operations, EUNAVFOR Aspides, EUNAVFOR Med-Irini, and EUNAVFOR Atalanta, are prominent example of this, contributing to the maintenance of international peace and security under the Charter of the United Nations. Madam President, stating its commitment to international law and the UN Charter, Greece upholds the EU position and stands firm as regards Russian invasion of Ukraine. Together with the EU, we condemn any breach of international peace and security against the independence, sovereignty and territorial integrity of any state. It is imperative that we all work towards an end to the destruction and suffering in Ukraine. The time of peace has come, but what is needed is not only cessation of hostilities, but a just, comprehensive and lasting settlement through inclusive diplomacy based on the UN Charter and international law, as well as credible security guarantees which will prevent the recurrence of war. Europe must be at the table. Madam President, let me now turn to Gaza. As all of the EU, Greece too reiterates its support for the ceasefire, both giving reprieve to the people of Gaza and allowing Israeli hostages to return to their loved ones. Greece has also been proactive at last month's EU-Israel Association Council, supports the discussion to hold the high-level political dialogue with the Palestinian side next month, as well as consistent EU efforts for the financial institutional support of the Palestinian Authority, which needs to play a leading role in the political process towards a two-state solution. Yet a grave humanitarian crisis is now unfolding. We therefore echo the Secretary General's calls for the unimpeded and immediate flow of aid into the Gaza Strip. We are encouraged by the EU's positive engagement with the Arab world, as demonstrated by the active participation of European Council President Costa at the recent Cairo summit. Post-conflict planning, including governance, security and reconstruction, are essential. In this context, the EU has a constructive role to play and an important voice to be heard. Madam President, in Africa, all crises highlight the urgent need to protect civilians, uphold the sovereign territorial integrity of states, and support fragile state institutions. In Sudan, the continued clashes between the SAF and the RSF have deepened the humanitarian crisis, displacing millions and destabilizing the country. The crisis in the DRC had triggered a dire humanitarian and human rights situation, aggravated by the unacceptable occupation of its eastern territories by the M23. This necessitates strong international cooperation, and the EU is a natural and trusted partner of the UN, not least in funding UN operations. Moreover, the Security Council must ensure that peacekeeping missions are adequately resourced, that the mandates are in line with the political context with which this mission will be deployed, and that diplomatic efforts are redoubled to support African nations in the pursuit of stability and development. The EU, alongside the UN, has long supported African-led peace initiatives, including the EU peacekeeping efforts, and will continue to do so in cooperation with other stakeholders. Madam President, we stand at a defining moment. The integrity of the international system depends on a collective resolve to uphold international law, defend multilateralism, and support the most vulnerable. The European Union remains steadfast to its commitment in working with the United Nations and all partners to build a world where peace, security, and human dignity prevail. Let us seize this moment to reinforce our unity and act decisively in pursuit of these shared objectives. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Greece for their statement.